This is a ghostly true story. The year 1989. The Flight 243. The plane, a Boeing 747. The destination, Tokyo, Japan. The origin, Los Angeles, USA. The route takes them over Siberia, where most of the passengers are sleeping soundly. But little did they know that they would soon be in for a scary surprise. Now, this is not your ordinary flight, because even though it's a routine flight for the pilots and the crew, it's going to be one heck of a nightmare for many passengers. A nightmare that has been haunting them for decades and will continue to haunt them until death parts them away from their families. Because you see, they're not alone in that plane. They have some uninvited guests, but they don't know it yet. For now, we all know how horrifying an experience it can be to travel in a plane with bugs. For some people, even a small bug crawling on their arm can make the flight unbearable. And if that bug happens to be a cockroach, then things go from bad to worse. Just the sight of a roach can send shivers down our spines. So imagine what must have gone through the minds of these passengers when they saw not just one or two, but hundreds and hundreds of cockroaches flying all around in the airplane. That is what happened on board United Airlines Flight 243 in 1989. At first, they thought that it was a one-off occurrence and that it would end there. But they were wrong. The number of roaches kept increasing with every passing minute. Now, this was truly creepy. What made it worse was that nobody from the crew knew what to do. It was as if the insects had taken over the plane. And to top it off, the airline staff wasn't even apologetic about it. When some passengers complained about the insects, they were told to suck it up and deal with it. Some passengers even said that the staff seemed amused by the situation, and as if things couldn't get any worse. After the plane landed at its destination, the passengers were greeted by more roaches. Hundreds of them were scurrying all over the place. People were shocked and horrified to see so many roaches. Everyone started taking pictures of the insects, which only added to the chaos. Soon, major newspapers and TV channels got a hold of the images and started publishing and broadcasting them everywhere. This brought the airline into disrepute, and people started avoiding the company because who would want to ride in a plane filled with cockroaches? The company was losing millions. They tried everything they could to get the media's attention off them, but nothing worked. In fact, the problem was much bigger than they thought. After the incident, they realized that the issue was not with just one plane, but with the entire fleet. The infestation was so bad that they had to cancel all their flights. Do you know why? It was because thousands of roaches had made their way into the air conditioning system of every single plane, and there was no getting rid of them. But you must be wondering, how did this happen? Well, it all started when the planes went to an aircraft boneyard in the California desert for maintenance. There were thousands of dead bugs in the desert, and the workers must have tracked some of them into the planes. And once the planes were in the air, the roaches came out of hiding. But you know what? Even after all this damage, the company never admitted that the problem existed. Instead, they tried to cover it up, claiming that there were only a few isolated incidents of bugs being found on the planes. They even sued one of the TV channels for defamation. But the court ruled in the channel's favor, and United Airlines had to pay a hefty sum of $6 million to settle all the claims. But do you know what? This whole incident was nothing compared to what happened on Japan Airlines Flight 123. If you're rethinking that I'm exaggerating, then let me tell you that this is the worst aviation disaster in Japan's history. On August 1985, Japan Airlines Flight 123 took off from Tokyo bound for Osaka. There were 520 passengers and 15 crew members on board. At first, the flight was smooth sailing, but turbulence hit shortly after the plane reached its cruising altitude. This is where things took a turn for the worse. The plane lost 3,300 meters in altitude within minutes, and the pilots were struggling to regain control. The passengers screamed in terror as they were tossed around in their seats. When the plane finally leveled off at 6,000 meters, the pilots realized that they couldn't maintain the altitude. They were in a free fall. As the plane began its descent, the passengers' screams turned into cries for help. The pilot managed to contact air traffic control and informed them about their predicament. He also requested the authorities to guide him to the nearest airport. But before he could finish his sentence, the connection was lost. People watched in horror as the plane began to disintegrate in the sky. They saw smoke billowing out of the plane and debris falling from the sky. The plane had cracked apart and was raining down death upon the small town below. When the dust settled, the authorities found out that 520 people had lost their lives. It was the deadliest accident in the history of commercial aviation. But what caused this tragedy? Well, the answer was shocking. An investigation revealed that a faulty repair had caused the plane to break apart. To be honest, the crew did everything right. It wasn't their fault, but what they didn't know was that some guy had tampered with the plane's equipment while it was being refitted. His name was Heihachi Miyazaki, a former mechanic at Japan Airlines. But what was his motive? He wanted revenge on the company because he had been fired. He had been a troublemaker since day one, always getting into fights with his colleagues. He was an unpredictable person who couldn't handle rejection. So when he was fired, he decided to take revenge. He knew that the company had to fix the planes in the aircraft boneyard, and that where he struck, he loosened a bolt in the horizontal stabilizer, which controlled the plane's pitch. And when the plane reached its cruising altitude, the bolt gave way, causing the plane to fall apart. But do you know what? There was something else at play here. Something supernatural. You see, the B-747-200 series planes had a reputation for being haunted. Pilots reported hearing strange noises and seeing ghostly apparitions on board. In fact, even before Flight 123, another YAL plane had crashed under mysterious circumstances. On December 4th, 1969, YAL Flight 555 was on its way from Tokyo to San Francisco. It was a routine flight, but fate had something else in store. As the plane was approaching its destination, the pilots lost all communication with the ground crew. The plane continued its descent and ultimately crashed into a mountain. All 162 people on board perished. The cause of the crash was never determined, but many people believe that the plane was cursed. After that incident, many pilots refused to fly the B-747-200 Cetius Planus, but YAL ignored their concerns and continued using the planes. They thought it was just a superstitious nonsense, but little did they know that they were playing with fire. Many people believe that the ghost of everyone who died on those planes is seeking revenge on the company, and they say that until YAL acknowledges what happened, the ghosts will continue to haunt their planes. So, next time you find yourself on a plane, better Google it first. You might just be boarding a ghost plane.